What is good, friends? And welcome back. I have a guest with me. He needs no introduction, but I'll say his name still. David DX7. What's happening, David?
Good. What's up, Antoine?
I'm great. Sunday morning for me. I wanted to talk about a topic that is different. I'm wondering if Warpath is on a decline. I've been playing this game from the early days. I'm not a tester, but almost server 8. We are now at server 160 or something. I mean, crazy. It makes me feel old. I'm wondering if Warpath is on the decline. There's a few clues that I think they are, and we're gonna talk about that. I hope not. I don't want to wake up one day, log into Warpath, and realize that the servers are down and the game is gone. You don't want that. I don't want that. That would be catastrophic. So, I think that Lilith takes this seriously. Their goal is to have downloads and to keep certain amount of players to play the game. That's natural. And I think it's easier to keep them playing the game rather than gaining new players. Are they doing the right thing? I don't know. We're going to talk about that with David. David, what do you think? Do you think that Warpath is on a decline?
I do. Yes, I do. We share our. I think we'll probably share some opinions on that. But yeah, um, mobile games historically have a 3-year lifespan, and then they either make it to that point and they keep going and survive, or they don't. That's just kind of what happens. Lilith has a lot of games. Warpath, Art of Conquest. What's the other one like? It's not Clash of Clans? I think it's Rise. Is it Rise of Kingdoms? Is there the
Rise
big
of
one?
Kingdom, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. They've been around for a long time. Rise of Kingdoms, I think, still to this day makes a lot more money than Warpath. So I think Lilith knows how to keep the game alive. But at the same time, I agree with you. I think there's some. I think Warpath is a little bit different than all those other games, and I do see some signs. It'll be interesting to see if you're seeing the same things I feel like I'm seeing. But I feel like I'm seeing some. There's a couple things that I think I'm seeing where I'm like, this isn't so good.
If you're a new player, you don't see that at all. But the older players, when I start playing the game, we had no conquests yet. So all we had to do is fight inside the server, which was amazing. I mean, that was the golden age of Warpath. I remember the level 1 city was not crazy in terms of fight. We have little fights, but when we jump into the level 2 city, that's when I saw some massive battles, and our leader told us, listen, guys, in Boston, they're going to wait for us, and they did. And it was epic, huge battles. We had to retreat in another city to come back and reinforce with some friends. It was amazing. I used to wake up during the night to help my friends fight and defend the city, which I don't do anymore. The passion is not there. The dynamic is not there anymore. It's still fun, but I miss the old server wars where we had those massive and epic battles. We had to insert spies, we had to defend cities, we had to go all across the globe, chase them down and prevent them from setting our village ablaze. It was fun time. I miss those days. I don't know about you, but now the new player, you don't see that. For you, it's business as usual. You don't remember what it used to be before. Was it better? It was different. Warpath evolves quickly, but one thing that shocked me, and I think that you mentioned that, is the newer servers. Everybody is at peace. There's no war. They only compete during the conquest. Besides that, nothing happened. And I think that's one of the reasons why they reduced the amount of cities inside the server. So there's less title because there's no war and there's nothing to contest, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. What's your theory on this?
No, I think so. For the newer cities, that would be the goal. I mean, when me and you started, and I think you said it, there was no level 4 yet. This was 3 or 4 years ago. And so, like you said, all we had to do was literally the server, like that was the conquest, was conquering cities and servers. And I'll just mention it for people. There's a lot of new players that watch these streams nowadays. Back when me and Antoine started, alliances were full, 255 players. There was like 10 to 20 alliances in a server. And like for me on server 26, where we started, there was not a city in the server that did not have a massive war going on in there. So it's very different than how it is today. And then, like you said, the newer servers, every single one I've gone and looked at is pretty empty. There's maybe one or two alliances at most, maybe a third or fourth, but none of them are. They're about 40 or 50 player teams. If you're lucky, you'll see one with close to 100 players. That's rare, I think, and that's from server 60 all the way. I think you said it earlier. Now I think it's up to almost 160 is the server. So it's different because now we have conquest, and that's the focus. And so I'm like you. I used to get up at 3 a.m, adrenaline running and anxiety, trying just like our city's on fire and trying to help friends and things. I can't do that anymore. I'm too old for that crap. But but they don't have that today. So now it's basically fight hard during conquest and rest in between. So it's different than when we started for certain. But in either case, though, there's significantly less players in the game. Either
Lilith,
way.
yeah, Lilith will never show the numbers. I think it's on a decline. There's a few clues that tells me so. The first one is seems like they have more smaller packs for sale, smaller events that are more that smaller spender can enjoy. So they're trying to cater to the moderate to casual spenders. There was that event recently where you had to convince a friend that quit the game to return into the game in exchange of a reward. I found that weird. I mean, I'm in sales, and I'm not in sales enough to harass somebody who quit the game. Well, for two reasons. It's up to them to join the game or not. I'm not here to sell them anything, and the rewards in exchange was negligible. And the second thing is, if you quit the game, let's say you just take a pause of the game for 1 month. When you come back, you're so far behind that all your friends have leveled up. They're in different alliance, and now you can't. It's harder to compete or play with them in their tier of battlefield because they leveled up, and 1 month is too long for you to catch up. It's impossible. So imagine after a year. I don't think the only reason why I would come back if I would pocket all the stuff I didn't claim while I was in vacation. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I would just start from scratch. Sorry. So I don't know if that played well for them. I don't believe so. I don't think that this event will come back.
Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt it did good at all because I think we share the same opinion. I didn't realize you were in sales. That's interesting. So you get it, but
well, I'm not
we're talking about
as a salesman, but I work on commission, and yeah, I work on
so you
performance.
understand it though.
Okay, I understand the dynamic.
Yeah, so it is easier to retain than to bring people back after they've left because once they've left, there's a reason that they left. Probably was not a good reason. And Warpath being the type of game it is, you're not going to come back and you're going to be so far behind everybody. Like I have a friend, his game name was Scurvy Poop or something like that. That was his player game. And yeah, interesting name. But he was one of our best players. We played together for a long time and he ended up quitting. He was free to play. And then a couple of years passed and he reached back out to us on Discord because he kept watching my streams and he's like, hey, is there a chance I could come back and play with you guys in the game? And he had given his old account to one of our Alliance members who still plays. And I'm like, well, you could, but you can't play with us anymore. You have to go play in Silver because that account now has been out of the game for a year and a half, and there is no catching up for that account. And so the outcome of that is he's not coming back to the game because it's not worth it. And he's not going to start a new account because he already went through the grind in the first place to build an account. And so going through that again, like anybody who's played a long time jokes about building a new account on a new server, but it's not like it was back when we started. So I don't think it's as exciting as it used to be starting a new account. So I think the idea of bringing people back into the game is probably, like you said, I don't think it was successful for them. I don't think it will be successful. So I think it's just easier to retain existing players because, keep the game good, keep people having a good time. There's no reason for them to leave. But I think there's some things we'll probably end up talking about on that topic too, because there's also some clues there. But yeah.
Why are they quitting the game? Why they can't keep up? I would love to see the stats. I guess my theory is there's many factors that make people quit, but I'm talking about, let's say, the players that play for, let's say, the first 2 months and then they abandon the game. If they do, they realize that money wise, it's unsustainable. It's not possible. They realize that it's a pay to win, even though it's free to play, like many games. Okay, it's not just Lilith. You can play for free. We've said that before. However, if you want to be competitive, the only way is either to be a grandmaster at the game. Very few are like that. You have to be gifted, or purchase your victory. And once you start purchasing those packs, those players realize that, wait, like $100, it doesn't give me much. It doesn't make a dent. So how do they do it? And they realize, well, you know what? I'm not going to spend any money on that. I'm going to play a real free to play where I can play against other free to play, and that's it. That, I think, is one of the factor. And the way that Lilith pushes those packs, like it's event after event after event, it never stops. It gets worse. Before it was always monetized, but the skin set bonus is it's a disaster for those players. They don't understand why their unit on the screen have the same power as, let's say, Sing Song, but they get destroyed in one shot. They don't get that. No, it's because you have an insane collector level, and that collector level is hidden buffs that gives you superpower. So I think that is one of the factor. They really push on the money, on the spending, and that's driving me insane. Can't they do anything else? It seems like their priority is money, and after that it's money. Then in third place is more money, and then you have that much room for something else, and underneath you have how to make the game runs better. That's the most frustrating things about Lilith. I love Warpath, don't get me wrong, but I cannot enjoy the game when I feel like a piggy bank and their game runs like crap.
Yeah, no. So people know I'm actually building a financial software. So I'm spending less time in game. But what that allowed me to do though is I entered in what Warpath spending would look like based on what I was doing, and so just so people kind of understand, because you brought it up, like a free to player spends $100 or like a low spender, and they realize that does absolutely nothing, and then they're wondering why they, their unit can't do it. So to compete with the whales, and I would even say these are like, if you're only going after collector level, which is what I did, that's not buying packs to make your units strong and raising your account power.
It's like only base skins.
So only base skins. That's Legendary Showroom, that's the museum, that's also the holiday events, because there's skin sets in those too, and then gunning to the top potentially, and I'll factor in doing one gunning to the top per year, okay, and maybe throw in one exclusive officer per year. So if you do all that, that averages out to $20,000 a year. People can't do that, right? So that would keep you on an equal playing field with the average whale, not the whales also doing skin sets plus units and components and things like that, right? Just to give people perspective on how big that gap really is. So that, I think, I agree with you, is the number one factor. And that's actually one thing that put me off with spending this year. One, I have different financial goals, so I'm not spending anything on Warpath anymore. I'm done. I've actually stuck to that this go around because I did that one other time and it lasted about like 30 days. But part of that was I am so burnt out by the number of packs and things they keep adding to the game. It's not that they like, I don't mind that the game requires some spending to be competitive. Like it's well within my financial means to do that if I want to. I could be a huge whale, but it really burns you out. Like you just said, you start to just feel more like a piggy bank and you're not really getting a lot of value for what you're putting into it. And for me, how much I was spending versus the entertainment factor that I'm getting back out of it, that there's a gap that keeps increasing there because conquests, I don't know if you feel the same way, but for me, well, I think you do because you messaged me the other day and you were like, you looked at every battlefield and everything was just a dead staring contest. Like you couldn't find anything going on anywhere.
Yes.
And so when I play, my play time is after work during the week or early, like around this time that we're recording this. And it's not a lot going on. It's just 100 bases staring at 100 bases. And maybe there's a army group or two. So my enjoyment factor is very few and far between. And the only big battles that I really get to be a part of now are like when the fort opens for that first day or the blockhouse. So every month I might get, let's say, 10 hours of really enjoyable gameplay out of the game. But to also get that enjoyment, I would have to spend that amount of money to be competitive. Because then when you drop down battlefields, like I'm in Gold 1 right now, then just by the lower battlefields, there's also less fighting and less going on. So that's one factor I'm seeing is I'm agreeing with you that them shoving hacks and just more spending like that does seem to be their constant priority. And then there's like that sliver, like you said, at the bottom of like, okay, there's some gameplay experience things in there. It's just really burned me out. And I do think that's probably one of the biggest factors on why people might be leaving. You can't even keep up to what am I trying to say? Like you can't even keep you'll never keep up with the whales, but you can't even remotely keep up to at least kind of hold your ground or be competitive against them. And now they've raised I thought you might have saw it. They raised the museum cap. Now it's going to go to 140 instead of 80.
140.
And so, yeah. And the museum buffs aren't that big of a deal. Like the percentages aren't as high as just doing sets.
No, but what you get to reach that level is insane, is crazy. I'm sorry to cut you on this. It's twice as bad because let's say you spend, let's say your conquest is done, it's a W, yay. Okay, no big deal. Then you spend a little bit, you upgrade, and you're ready to enter a conquest just to realize that it's a staring conquest again. So not only you spend, but you don't enjoy the game because nothing is happening. So it's twice as bad. Some conquests are a little bit better, but I've seen a decline of activity. Bases are getting stronger. Nobody dares to attack them. I think that is one issue. The second issue, I think, is when they cut the alliance number in half, then we have less army groups, and army groups destroy bases. Unless you're a whale and you can do all the work, but it's not sustainable. So by cutting
I'm interested in what you think about that. Actually, this you mentioned it, the bases being stronger. So I have this opinion that the skin sets and everything would not be an issue at all if they made bases weaker again, because the whale units are always going to be incredibly strong. And I have this theory that if they made bases weaker again, and everybody loves base defenses, so yay, but if they eliminated that and eliminated the staring contest we're talking about, I don't think people would actually have as big of an issue with the skin set gap. That's
That,
a theory I have.
yes, it's an interesting theory, but also if you would increase the reserves or make them recover faster, then it would promote more fighting because then okay, you lose 4,000 reserves trying to siege a base. No big deal. You will gain 3,000 inside 24 hours, so you can keep fighting. Unless they are pushing to sell you reserves, then uh, that's kind of sneaky, but knowing Lilith, I'm not surprised. That is one factor that I think has an influence on the people not sticking around. The other thing that I think doesn't help at all is how the game runs. So Warpath was made for mobile. Then it got released on iOS, Apple and iPad, iPhone and iPad, but not the computer. It doesn't matter which device you use. Mostly of them will use their Android or their Apple device because it's advertised. It's on the Google Store. It's not on Steam. It's not a game that you can download. It's not advertised on Steam, and I don't know why, because it runs much better on PC. But even so, on PC, even if you have a decent device, the game doesn't work well. So imagine with your average cell phone, some people they cannot run AG, they cannot run army groups because their phone doesn't allow it. It crashes, the game crash, and even if it doesn't, it's very hard to manage a bunch of units in such a small screen. You will do mistake, you will misclick, you will cause a catastrophe, and now you realize nobody wants to join your rally anymore. And those mid-sized to weaker player, that's their bread and butter. That's what they love to run, rallies. That's how they can be powerful, by controlling somebody else unit. And not being able to run a rally properly, then they just say, listen, level 1 city was fine, not much action. Level 2 city, there's a little bit of war. Okay, the phone's getting hot. Level 3 city and conquest, I can't do it anymore. So that's why I think, I may be wrong, but that's why they quit. Lilith is aware of it, but I don't think they have any plan to fix that. What do you think?
Uh, it's what I do for a living, so I have a lot of opinions on that. I'll try and keep it short. But
Can they fix that?
I mean, it's challenging because, like you said, it is designed for mobile first. So it's built using Unity game engine is what it's built on. And so because it's built for mobile first, the graphics, everything about the game is optimized for mobile. Okay, so on PC, the graphics aren't super great compared to other PC games because they're not high resolution graphics, for example, 3D models, all that kind of stuff. But mobile has this challenge of there's so many different devices out there, making sure that the number one issue with mobile games is making sure the devices don't overheat. And you probably remember, like I do, there was a short period of time where there was a bug in the game where the devices literally were overheating like mad, like getting hot, can't touch your phone kind of thing. And it took a couple months for them to fix that. So that is a challenge. If they were to reverse that and say we're going to target the game and optimize primarily for PC, all your performance issues would go away, but then it probably would not run on mobile. So I'm not sure there's an easy answer because Warpath, when it first was developed, we talked about this in one of the first collabs we did. You talked about 3 years ago, there was just way less on the screen at a given time. And now there's so many things on the screen, and especially and again, skin sets, there's all these base effects and animations that didn't used to be there. The bases were pretty simple back in the day. So there's a lot of factors. It's very complex. I do know they're always working to optimize it. So I don't think they're ignoring it. I do think they actively work on it. I would just say it is a very tough problem since they are targeting both mobile and PC. If they went all in on one or the other, then I think they could optimize the game more than they are. But their goal is to support both, and that creates a pretty complex challenge, I would say. And I think overall, like my gameplay experience. I was really wrenching on Lilith a while back because my game was crashing. I couldn't install it. Turned out it was actually I had a bad CPU in my computer, and I replaced the CPU, and all my problems went away. No crashes, no lag, nothing. And people watch my streams, and I get messages all the time like, "Why is your Warpath so smooth?" Okay, well, it's a brand new computer, good hardware, and great. But I hear what you're hearing. People, especially free to play, I hear all the time. The number one reason people will not run rallies is because their game crashes or it lags, like all those things you're saying. So that's on mobile. I have a S21 Ultra. It runs the game pretty decently, but even on this device, it does get hot. I don't experience crashes like people do.
No.
But I still hear that to this day. That we had even just the other day, we had a guy running a rally, and in Alliance chat, he's complaining. He's like, "My game crashed 3 times. Sorry guys, that's why the rally was sitting AFK, or they didn't hit the base or whatever." And to your point, it's hard enough on mobile being a touch screen to control your units anyway. So add the crashing and the lag on top of that, and it's really quite challenging. And I think it's a deterrent for people to run AG. I think typically what I see, I don't know if this is what you see, but in all the alliances I've been in, it's pretty hard to get even 10 army group leaders. If you get to 10, that's a pretty good number, actually. Getting more than that, you're doing really great. And obviously, I don't know what like legendary is like, but even in Gold 1, having 10 rallies at one time is pretty good. So if they were to fix that and get people comfortable with running AG again, I think that would fix some of the activity problems, because people just won't. Like, they're active in the game, but they're not going to form an AG. I think that is a big issue.
Well, I think the game should run smooth. If the game runs like crap, you can't have fun, no matter if you're spending or not. You can't play the game. If you can't play the game, then you switch to another game. That's as simple as that. The game must run. If it's advertised for mobile, it should run on a decent mobile. Like, most of the time, people will replace their unit every 3 years, sometime 2 years. So some are less lucky, I guess. They have an older one, but besides, it should be able to run it. If Warpath was launched in 2020, I believe, so if your device is from 2020, you should still run the game. That's
they've added a lot since then, for sure, though. So the system requirements have definitely changed. They have the light mode, which is awful.
Yeah, awful. I don't.
Whenever I play on phone, it switches to light mode on me all the time, and I have to switch it back. But I've tried playing light mode, and it does run better. But the gameplay experience is so bad in light mode. You might as well just shut it off at that point. Like, I don't know if you've tried light mode, but it's pretty bad.
I can. There's light, and underneath the bottom of the barrel is simplified.
Yeah, there's some other.
It's even worse. I mean, in light mode, you only have one unit instead of, let's say, 5 main battle tank. So it throws you off on the range or where you are physically on the map. I don't like this. And the mode below that, it's even worse because nothing moves. They just rotate. And it looks like you're playing a game from 10 years ago. What? No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So they could take like the idea of light mode and maybe apply that to different aspects of the game. Like, maybe they could disable, turn off base skins, base animations,
all the special effects.
All the special effects. But the most important part of the game is the units. So that's why I think light mode is bad, is because, to your point, it does mess with your ability to determine like the unit range and where you're at and all those things. But if they took that concept and maybe there's other things they could disable that make it a little bit better, might help.
Yeah, and bring back dark mode, dark theme, please. The white stuff, I don't like it. I mean, anyways, what else do you think is causing the decline of Warpath? We talk about alliance size, the Bornus, the spending, the game crashing. Is there anything you suspect is causing Warpath to decline?
I mean, yeah, my big two are just the staring. I don't think the spending is necessarily the big issue per se. I think it's the spending causes the staring a little bit, but it's more the game meta, I would say.
To enjoy the game, it must work properly. It must be fun. That's the two main factor. What is not fun is the staring, the turtles, bases that refuse to engage and just want to collect kills. It's not the end of the. If you have the activity, you can deal with that in a manner, in such a manner. I think it's not the end of the world. Trying to think about the lower level commanders that may struggle a little bit. I don't know. I when they cut the alliance in half, that hurt me a little bit. And the other thing that pissed me off is when they nerfed the alliance chess. That was like one big issue. Before you were in a big alliance, then you would profit from this economy. Everybody that would purchase a gift pack, everybody else would get a kickback. Okay. Now they only allow this on certain. All the best packs don't give you kickbacks anymore, and that thing it hurt.
Well, that's how
It made
people
me
were
upset.
keeping up.
Yeah,
That's how people.
yeah, because even let's say, even if a top tier alliance, you have free to play. Believe it or not, we have free to play players in G27 and S21. We had free to play players that were talented and active, and their only way to keep up with the spenders is with the alliance chest or the alliance kickback. There were a lot of spenders, yes, but those spenders, they would help, they would support the lower spenders and free to play, trying to keep up with the evolution. Now it's not the case anymore. I don't know why they removed that. Maybe they didn't appreciate getting stuff for free, or
They probably have data that shows people spend less, probably. So
yeah,
by removing that, they probably have data that shows people spend more now. Is probably what that did.
because you reward the spender by giving them a little bit more gold, and you just cut off the free to play that needs those buffs to help survive and kind of offset the other players in terms of power. So that was like a major hit for me. I didn't appreciate that move. So yeah, I don't know what else. I don't know,
Yeah.
but that's the main issue I had with the game. Mind you, I still play it, but the passion is not there anymore. It keeps like we need new content. I mean, the Navy was kind of new, but it didn't get me hooked on the game. It was not the Navy that the Navy was not the feature to make me enjoy more the game. I didn't care about the Navy, but maybe I'm different. I don't know. A lot of players, you love the Navy. I don't care about it. It seems like every new conquest is the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah. If they want to fix the game, the answer is game meta and conquest. That's why people play the game. So they've got to get rid of the staring contests. That's got to go, because that's nobody. When it's a staring contest, nobody plays. And they've got to continue making conquest more interesting. So they do those two things. A lot of the other issues won't matter as much anymore, because as long as people are having fun, they're not going to care so much about a whale having a skin set of 100. If they're having fun, that's all that matters. That's why people play the game. So I did remember my other thing, though, was actually the tech trees, because you brought up Navy. And so they've got this new tech tree coming out now. I forget the name of it, Dominion Forces or something like that.
They said they would not release more tech, but they did.
So they don't. They do the opposite of what they say all the time, right? It's like, we're going to fix turtle meta, and then they come out with a buff for turtles. So like, what they say and what they do don't match at all. I don't think people really care, but I've noticed that, and I care. But yeah, the tech tree. What I've noticed, maybe you've noticed this, but it seems that if you think about a free-to-play player, they've and how long it takes them to complete a tech tree. So like if a free to play player focuses on, let's say, tank tech only, and they complete their advanced tree, and then by now those types of players that have done that have completed their modern tank tree as well, if you focused. It seems to me that they're releasing new tech at about that time frame. So I think what I'm seeing is they're monitoring like how long it would take a free to play player to max one type of tech, and then that seems to be when a new tech tree is getting released. Because that's been, thinking back, that's been pretty consistent about like modern tech, and now we have this new tech and all that. So I think that's what they're doing. That's just my opinion, but I think the issue is, of course, the whales. And I think this one, it didn't. I don't know how it's going to work. I haven't read the patch notes in depth, but there's so much tech now, and it's not a bottleneck for a big spender. You know, so they're gonna max that tech in no time, and free to play players are, maybe they have one modern tech tree, maybe maxed. That's a small percentage of free to play players, I think, because people do like to experiment with different units too, to kind of find out what's my play style, what's fun, or they get bored of tanks and they want to play howitzers for a while, you know. So I do think that'll be another thing that eventually it's going to force players to drop down in battlefields over a longer period of time. And then are they going to have fun in those lower battlefields when there's less activity? That's all. I don't know how that's all going to look 6 months to a year from now after this new tech tree's out. It'll be interesting. But I do think that plays, I don't know if it's the biggest factor, but when you're playing in a battlefield and the enemy units are just so far beyond yours, like you said, you get one shot all the time, or back in the day when your base got like, you know, well, bases used to be able to be one shot by a whale. Actually, I remember getting killed by our whale in server 26 all the time. But yeah, so all these things combined together, though, make it difficult to retain the free-to-play player base. And so if the game ends up being only the spenders, that's not very many people, actually. No. And a lot of the big spenders don't actually play all that much. They share their accounts with pilots who are the free-to-play guys. And to your point, they're the ones actually, like, for example, the Alliance I'm in, it's a bunch of 15-year-old kids, you know, and there's like 8 of them, and they're the ones putting 15 hours a day running the AGs and all that. I've learned that recently since I pissed them off with my live stream, but you know, but I think that's the reality. It's like the big whale accounts. I'm sure there's some that, like, I've met CQ. I've talked to him quite a bit. He's a really cool dude. He actually plays his account.
He's a nice guy.
He's a very nice guy, actually. I'm actually going to send him my other Warpath hat that I have. He's going to be the recipient of that, actually. I got to get his information, but
he's a whale.
He's a whale. He's like 800 million, big spender. Nicest guy. I pissed him off one time too because we tore treaties in our conquest and had a blast. But anyway, another story for another day. But yeah, what I'm learning is like there's so much account sharing, but it's because the big whales that spend a lot, they're busy working and things like that, and they've got these pilots, which are usually younger guys who have more time in their day. But they're the ones putting in the actual work. They're not playing with their own accounts a lot of the time, actually. And some of them do, but the reason they don't is for a lot of what we're talking about, though. They just make use of the, you know, the whale accounts. So it's, you know, it's all smart. Interesting.
They are smart those because they don't have money in the game. They benefit from all the buffs. They win, they lose, they don't care because it's not their, in theory, it's not their alliance, or they're hired to pilot the account. Do you think that the account sharing is a factor for that affect the gameplay and why people quit? Or I know Starcrest, when he sold, that was his major gripe. He was a whale, one of the most powerful player, and he said that I'm quit. I can't compete with 24/7 activity. Not gonna. It's impossible. Do you think that have an influence on the gameplay?
I think so, because there didn't used to be as much account sharing years back, they've added a lot of features to the game that actually make it easier and safer to share your account. The most recent one was that secondary password, right? So even though they came out and said like we're against account sharing, it's against our policy.
They make it easy.
Like a week later, they literally like they put that announcement out there, and then a week later they came out with the secondary password that made it easier. And it's like, okay, like yeah, so nothing they say really matters. I think I do think that plays a factor because that is a deterrent when, like when I was R5 of my alliance up United Power, we had 0 account sharing. We actually had 40 to 70 truly active players. We dominated Gold 2 for quite a while. I think it was like we had a 6-month run where it was just back-to-back wins. Nobody was going to beat us kind of thing. And so it's totally possible, but that was uncommon. But the challenge becomes over time is, yes, no matter how many active players you have, the talent, AGs, you cannot compete with these big whale accounts that are online 24 hours a day who have infinite reserves. They've got good air, like all those things. So I do think that plays a factor. I think over time it's changed the game meta a little bit because now account sharing is so normalized. Like it's not a BlueStacks issue anymore. Like that's not a thing as much. Now it's just you've got 5 young guys who can all share and run a whale account across a 24-hour period and keep it active. And that's really what the game meta is like now. And that can be a deterrent. I think it's a little bit less of an issue because everybody's doing it now, it seems like.
Well,
so,
you have, that's true. You have, let's say, one account piloted by, let's say, 3 individuals to cover 24/7. You also have pilots that control multiple accounts.
Right.
That's not better. 6 planes at once, it's kind of difficult to cope with, and that will piss off a lot of people, as technically it's legal. It's 2 separate accounts that you control by one individual. You have 2 hands, you can control 2 devices. How well can you do? I've tried it before. It's possible. You can do it with jets. It's very easy to do. It's especially when those jets are maxed blue units, whatever you point,
just throw them in and they're not going to die. So
they clean everything, right?
Yeah.
So
I had that issue recently. Actually, that was one of the things I got super frustrated in my live stream yesterday because, like, when I play, I like to play aggressively and competitively, and I'm like, I want to get stuff done. And one of the things that really frustrated me actually is we had a guy, and it's not his fault. He was trying everything he could, but he was running multiple accounts, and they asked me to come up and be a frontline base. So I'm like, okay, I'll come up. But I spent 20 minutes of my live stream trying to move, and nobody was making room. But part of the problem was we had this guy running multiple accounts and running a rally, and he was like fumbling trying to do all of this, which is why it was taking so long. And so that's a little bit different than, it's just a different situation basically. But that was one of the things where account sharing to me, I was like, well, the reason we couldn't be effective in that moment was literally because the guy's fumbling with like 3 or 4 accounts trying to manage them in this situation. And I think account sharing, it's definitely here to stay. They're not going to do anything about it. I quit griping about it because it's just the reality of the situation. Everybody's kind of doing it, but I don't know if that's to your earlier question. I don't think it's one of the top issues on why players are leaving at this point, because since everybody's able to account share, you can counter account sharing with account sharing, and people are doing that as far as I can see anyway. So I don't know if that's a huge problem, but it is probably a factor. I think a year ago, 2 years ago, when you were talking about Starcrest, all the people like me, I've never shared my account. No one else other than me has ever logged into it. And that is how you feel. It's like when you're the whale and you can't compete against that is frustrating. And then at that point, you're like, well, I'm not going to share my account. So what am I, like, what's the point? So I think it plays a factor. Just don't know if it's like the biggest factor. I still would like to see account sharing go away.
But it compounds the problem. I mean, when you add everything It doesn't make it easier. It doesn't make it. It doesn't help the situation. I mean,
Right.
we're not trying to fix a problem here. I'm just talking about it. I think that the main issue is, like I said, if the game runs properly for most of us, if going into a conquest, win or lose, we have tremendous amount of fun because there is a lot of activity. You gain some village, you lose some, and it's a good balance. I think that Lilith is trying the best to have to offer a fair battlefield. It's a challenge, but I don't know what they could do so we enjoy every single conquest. It's lively, it's busy, there's a lot of action. Staring is not fun. I don't know, maybe promote more army groups. I don't know, bring back the alliance to 255 players. I don't know.
The most fun I've ever had in Warpath was when bases were weaker. So this was around the time when you could kill a typical base with a helicopter and main battle tank group. And
Oh
so
yeah, like the old fashioned way.
yeah, and so the game meta at the time was you would push the end, like you'd have big battles, and then something would give, and then your alliance would push that other alliance back, say like 9 villages, and then your alliance would die out activity wise, and then you'd wake up and you'd be pushed back 9 villages, and that was an exchange that would happen through the entire conquest. And the way you overcame that was through being creative and strategic with your allies, doing different things on the map. But the territory moved very quickly within a 12-hour time period. There was no staring. And this was the time where if you were pushed back, your counter would be like, get everybody online, and everybody would fly back at a spot with burnt bases, form groups.
That's
right?
The best moment. The counter attack.
The counter attack. So to me, that was when the game meta was at its peak, because during that time, that's when we also had the largest battles on the field. I have one memorable Moscow. We fought server 34. The whole map, like the whole southern region of the map, was just filled with units. Like, it was absolutely crazy. So to me, it needs to go back to that, which means bases do need to be weaker for that to happen, because that's what allows the movement on the map. Like, if you waste 6 groups on one base and it takes an hour to move that base, like, nothing's going to move. And then I would echo the second thing that you said, which is maybe the change to reduce the number of people in Alliance. We all advocated for it. I don't know if you remember that content creator call that we had with Derek. Everybody kind of shared the same opinions, like, well, most alliances only have 100 people anyway, but maybe reducing it was not so good in the long run, and maybe it needs to go back to 255. I just don't know if they have, which is the whole point of this topic. I don't know if the player base has that many active players to fill these 255 player alliances.
With the glory servers that limit the power, they have to increase that cap. Otherwise, you will struggle filling the alliance with twice as much players. So they will need to optimize that, I believe. But what you're saying is you would like to increase the speed, so base gets destroyed faster. Maybe village burn time will be reduced.
Yeah, so 45 minutes is really, I hate village mechanics in this game. It's long. Like, my team ragged on me again, my live stream yesterday. It was kind of brutal.
So hold on. Is this live stream still up?
I have not published it because I told them I would go review my own stream and see if it was really bad. And if it's really bad, because I can get really frustrated. I would
like to promote it, but if you want to keep it, okay. If it's back on, let me know. I'll promote it.
I can send you the link. It's unlisted right now. They probably don't want me in the alliance anymore. That's fine. We talked yesterday and I think everything is good, but I'm like, I'll leave voluntarily if it's not a good fit, because for me, but anyway.
Anyways, village burn time.
Yeah, so village burn time. So 45 minutes is long. And the reason I brought that up is because they were kind of ragging on me that I only played like 10 hours the whole conquest. And it's like, well, I'm not 15. I've got a full-time career, family. So when I can play, here's what I can give. But when I play, I'm going to play really hard for the Alliance. So, but 45 minutes, that's a long time, actually. And
Without
generally, it's
healing.
not for that's without healing. So generally to burn one village, which Fire and SVG, who we fought last conquest, they were making fun of us because I don't even think we burned 2 villages the whole conquest.
Oh.
We were 2v1, to be fair, but if you can't burn a village because it takes 2 hours per village, that's a pretty big ask. So my thing would be, I would love to see the time be reduced to 30 minutes, or I would like to see villages have HP instead of a time burn. And they could have a lot of HP, like let's say 10 billion HP. So it still takes a lot. But my point with that mechanic is you can burn a village down faster by having a lot of army groups attacking it. Like let's say it takes 10 army groups to kill a village, but it still takes, let's say, 5 minutes with 10 groups. But you could speed it up through activity. But with the time-based burn, you're just stuck at a minimum 45 minutes regardless of your activity. And that with the whale meta and the turtle meta, that's still kind of here. That's at least an hour and a half per village, basically. So I would love to see that mechanic change because I think then the movement on the battlefield would be better. It's also much more interesting than a time-based burn because you're just sitting there for 45 minutes minimum versus if you're attacking the village, that's a little bit more engaging than doing nothing.
Yeah, usually the first village is the longest one because the enemies still have some energy
Motivation.
and chums to heal it, and they have hope of at the very end of the timer the invaders will tone down their activity, which sometimes is the case. But once you break that line, every other village they just go like that. So you're telling that you would love dynamic burning time that would be adjusted upon many factors. I mean, what I would love to see is, let's say that the invaders are really dominant. Their alliance is almost twice as strong. They would require more time burning your village than you if you're less powerful. That could be an idea, and you only need one base to heal, right? So
that's all it takes. That's all it takes. One base.
It's all it takes, one base. So maybe adjust that healing according to how many base, just like when you build a village. The more you builders, the faster it builds. So the more healers, the faster it would heal. This kind of stuff. But yeah, the burn time is annoying a little bit. It's like, this is a mobile game. You expect a fast-paced game because it's on mobile. Should be simpler, should be straightforward. But the 45 minutes burn time, it's quite long, I think. If it would introduce dynamic burning adjusted by some factors, there would be more strategy behind a burning village, I think. Would make your brain work a little bit harder.
Yeah, so I don't have the ultimate answer on it, but HP to me was like, it's not time based, so you could speed it up through activity or not, and it could still have so much HP that a village still lasts a minimum amount of time, you know. So it's not like you'd kill a village in 30 seconds or anything like that. But even ideas like you're saying, like slowing down the healing. So if you vested the hour of your time to burn a village, which is a lot, maybe to your point, if they can make it where it requires more bases to heal it, whether that's faster or whatever. So if it's just one base, it doesn't kill the progress. So I think the takeaway from what we're talking about though is maybe there's something different they could do.
That would be a small change. Yeah, sorry. That would be a small change that would have a huge effect on the whole mechanic, right?
Yeah. So, because to your point, I agree. Like a lot of people too, they try and take a quick break at work and play a little bit, or maybe you're sitting at an airport, whatever. And like you may not even have really 45 minutes. All you could do is just donate. So the people that have that time Usually they're the younger kids out of school, they don't have a lot going on, who can sit and watch the villages, for an 8-hour stretch is what it really takes. And like that's even a big ask for some of these young kids who, like in this alliance I'm in, literally they're like, we play 15 plus hours a day. We're taking naps so we could wake up for different nodes. It's like that's like I can't do that. I'm too
Retired
old for that.
status, maybe they're retired too. There's a lot of older people that play this game.
That's true too.
Have
Yeah.
nothing to do. They just between naps. Oh, let me heal.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm kidding. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think villages need to change ultimately. That the pace of conquest needs to change, basically. I think that would be my number one. If they fix that, then people can just have more fun.
All right.
And the rest of it, would
That's
be
a good
whatever.
idea. That's a good idea. I would love to test that, Lilith.
Well, why don't they so you mentioned it, like every conquest is the same. Like they've clearly demonstrated they can make conquests have unique mechanics. Why don't they make a conquest map with that mechanic to try it out? It doesn't have to be across all maps.
No, could be like a special conquest or I mean,
Or Hegemon, Athena, anything just to try it out.
A weekend-long conquest or a 13 days conquest. Anyways, that could be an idea. So I hope that we can see that eventually.
That'd
David,
awesome.
It's a wrap. I think we highlight the issue or what we think could be optimized. If you would love to see a stream, when it will be available, I'll let you know. You decide. I watch a bit of it. I enjoy it. But I get it. I get it 100%. You're in the alliance. You have 2 hours ahead of you to play before going to work, and you're ready. You have the reserves. You're healed up. You have everything, and you really want to help your alliance, but seems like you're the only one active. Nobody is helping you. I understand. It's frustrating. And there you go. I'm not gonna ruin the punch of your stream, but when it's available, let me know. I'll promote it. That's it.
Cool.
Thanks for being part of this video, this collab. Guys, your comments are welcome. If you have any ideas, just let us know in the comments below. Could be good ideas. Any idea is good.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully everyone still enjoys Warpath, and I'd like to see this game continue for, a few more years at least. And yeah, no, thanks for having me, man. This is awesome.
You're welcome. Have a great weekend, guys. See ya.